So you're back there. We're going to move on now to our interview of the man,
Number 2.
Douglas Souls, Great Oak High, boys and girls coach there. He's won 9 CIF titles, 1 NXN title. Been at Great Oak for 14 years since the school opened. Great resume, Doug. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So coming out of the gate, last year you guys had a phenomenal season. You had a couple good seasons now with Great Oak, but it's a big transition year, especially on the girls' side, losing a lot of the scorers. How has the team been developing in the offseason, being able to fill the void of some of those phenomenal athletes you guys lost?
This is definitely a transition year for us. We knew it was going to be, and fortunately we've had a couple kids really step up. With Fatima Cortez and Audrey Dang have really gotten a lot faster this year. And we've got Tori Gaitan transferred over from Ukaipa High School. So with those 3 coming in to go along with Sandra, and we got an army full of young girls, slowly but surely we're getting there. So our top 4 is looking really good right now, and we've got a couple kids in development that by the time we get to the end of the season, we're look really good.
Yeah, preseason rankings. Boys are at number 2, girls are at number 9. How do you feel about that?
Trust me, we've run the math on the boys' side a lot, and I think that's pretty accurate. We should be sitting probably right around number 2. On the girls' side, I don't think anybody knows outside of number 1 at this point. It's pretty obvious who number 1 is, and everybody else is kind of looking at where they can try to fit in. I disagree with some of the rankings in there, but
what do you disagree with, Doug? What do you disagree with?
Definitely number 2. Definitely number 2. I think Sunset's way overranked, but I'm sure those girls will go out there and prove me wrong. But it's pretty wide open. I think that's the amazing thing. I think probably the Keller girls are probably, in my opinion, the number two team. But that's why we race, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of number 1, something we talked about at Mount Sac last year, always a hot topic, of course, is some states being allowed to race athletes that are in 7th and 8th grade and others can't. Looking at FM, they now have 10 titles at the national level, which is super impressive. If they were not allowed to race 7th and 8th grade athletes, how many national titles do you think they would have won?
They probably would still be about where they're at. I don't think it's making a huge difference in terms of they're not running a lot of them on race day. It's just the development is huge, and there's no other competition where you have a national championship where certain teams have certain rules and other teams have other rules. You don't see the Golden State Warriors showing up and putting 6 on the floor against the Cavs, right? It's everybody's got to play by the same rules, and unfortunately, this isn't run by USATF. It's not run by somebody that's going to make sure all the rules are identical. Nike does an amazing job, but when you allow certain teams to follow certain rules and other teams can't do those same things, I think you're going to have that inequity. When you look at NXN on the girls' side, there has never been a non-winner or a team that's won that has come out of a place that can't use middle schoolers. So obviously the middle school thing is factoring. The parity on the boys' side, the most anyone's won on the boys' side is 2. Right? So if you've got 2 national titles on the boys' side, and that's the best anyone's been able to do, but you've got 10 plus on the girls' side, you got to kind of look at that from a rules standpoint and say maybe there's something wrong here.
Yeah, and going into the preseason, everyone looks at FM, and I don't know if anyone can really have a strong argument as to why they shouldn't be number 1. As a coach and all these other top programs around the country, you look at Fayetteville Manlius. How can you create a game plan to potentially stop them from winning 11th national title?
Well, I haven't been the person to be able to do that, so I don't know if I'm the one to ask. But, I think the most impressive thing is their ability to run on race day. That's the hardest thing as a coach, is to take your athletes and have them ready to run a perfect race at state or at nationals, those types of things. Someone always has an off day when you're going to the big time, heavy stress races like that. So the fact that they've been able to do it year in and year out is just amazing. I think just their racing on race day is I haven't seen anyone, boys' side, girls' side, be able to replicate it. It's so far ahead of what anybody else is doing. It's unbelievable.
When you look at California this season, a lot of really strong teams this year, especially on the girls' side, boys' side as well, and there's a lot more depth maybe than we've seen the past couple of years. One thing that California doesn't have a great track record of is getting those wild card bids to make it to NXN. I think there's a lot of factors that might play into that, potentially that California teams don't always race a lot of outside programs, especially programs that make to NXN, so it's hard to judge those head-to-head competitions. Does any of that play into your decision to take the team to GRIAC this year?
No, I mean, when we founded the school in 2004, the ultimate goal was to try to put together a program that was nationally competitive. And so part of our foundation, our charter, was to go out there and compete nationally. And so we try to pick a different place each year to go. And Minnesota was the one that the kids came up with this year that they want to do because we haven't been there yet. It's kind of been nice to notice that, Wayzata's up there ranking wise as well. So we get to go out there and compete against some really good teams, Edina on the girls side. So I think one of the big things we look at is if we're going to go somewhere, we got to be able to lose. Like you're not going to see us go to Hawaii. We have to be able to get beat. That's the big thing. So I think that's how you grow. I know a few years back we went to Nike South and we're like, oh, these times are really slow. We're going to mop this up. Well, when you show up and it's 100% humidity and you got to, we live in a place where there's almost no humidity. So I think that's the eye-opening thing for those kids. It gives them an opportunity to kind of, see what the different conditions are and judge differently different parts of the country.
And lastly, looking at the depth in California this year, can you give us a prediction on how many California teams you'll think will make it to NXN this year?
Wow, it's hard. I mean, having been snubbed with a good team in 2014 on my end, I mean, with the mystery selection committee, who knows what they'll come up with, right? I mean, who knows who those guys are? So whatever they decide they want to do is what they're going to do. I think California has an argument usually for a couple teams on both sides. I know the Division I on our side that we're looking at. This is the first year in a while we've had to look up at some teams and say, okay, we're trying to catch this team or that team, and it'll take us some time, but I think we'll get there. But obviously Buchanan's good. Davis is probably the best, arguably one of the best coach teams in the country. So we'll work hard to try to catch up to them. Some of those D2 teams are looking pretty good as well, so it's hard to tell how good a St. Francis is going to be. La Costa Canyon's going to be pretty good this year for Division III. Campo Lindo's always pretty good. So's Palos Verdes. So for us, we're always trying to keep an eye on the teams that have really good coaches, because those tend to be the teams that in the long run are going to be there at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug, thank you so much for taking some time to join us today. We'll see you guys out in Minnesota at GRIAC.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day. Yep.